Welcome back, everybody. Big day. We're pushing the sport onto the lift so we can jack it up. What we're gonna be doing it different from the A1, A2, or whatever you want to call that thing, because people complain about it being me calling it an A2 and it's not. It's a piece of shit kit car. I'm gonna call it whatever I want to do. We have to get, like on the A2, we started with the rear move forward. On this, we have to start with the front and move backward, because the only thing this is, the main part of the chassis is stable. We know exactly where it's supposed to be, but we need to get the subframe off in order to measure the correct correct measurements to make sure the rear is square. That's the big thing. Now the top portion of the rear, or the top quarter portion of the rear, I'm not going to touch, except I am going to do some. I'm going to slide some of the window up a little bit to make it more level. That is going to be completely different, but the actual basic placement of where it is going to stay. Now the bottom half, where the suspension and all that stuff is, we're going to do basically the same thing, but we have to make sure that is absolutely square, so the strut sits square and all the other stuff fits. That's the main thing. And I have a feeling I messed up, even though that jig that I built was exactly equal and all stuff like that. I pushed it in. You saw that. Whether or not, I never did check it, and I always had it in the back of my mind to check it, but I never did. Without anything more on that, let's just push this thing on the lift. We'll jack it. Well, through movie magic, I did the fronts. Did the same thing as you can see right here. I did just a couple plates, a couple braces. Won't go anywhere. The only different things that I used was these right here are rear Coupe Quattro or 1991 Coupe Quattro rear ball joints. Because you have to remember, on these I hogged out the 19 millimeters, and it's the same thing as I believe it was the Jetta, and the same thing as the Coupe Quattros, the 20 valve. I think all the Audi 80s have it, but I never owned any of those Audi 80s or 90s or whatever. The only ones I ever owned were the Coupe 20 valve Quattros, and I still have one sitting out back. But this is there. It's all done. The only thing I actually had to do that was different from the A2 or A1, whatever you want to call it, whatever that thing was, the Audi Rally, is the ball joints is one thing, which I'm going to use the same ball joints on that Audi Rally car. I just have to hog out the hub assemblies, go from 18 millimeters to 19, because right now I have Quattro ball joints in it. Over here, the only thing different we did, we use the Coupe Quattro rear ball joints here, is that I put a 4000 Quattro half shaft in the back. This is a pre-85, 85 and before. 108 millimeter CV joint, big ends. It's the only thing it doesn't have is an ABS ring. Same exact thing, but it's about an inch longer, and it seemed to fit the chassis much better, because this side was not. I couldn't bring it out far enough as in to equal that side. So I went through my pile. I looked and I found that. So I put this in, and sure enough, they came. It basically equalized it out. It's sort of like, the Quattros use the same CV shafts on the right and on the left, front and rear. So that is a big thing. Thinking maybe the 5000, the engine placement was different. I don't really know. The backs really, they set up really nice, but it's also a completely different differential back there. It's not a Quattro 4000 differential per se. It's the long snout, and it's configured a lot differently. But I'm going to show you first. We have to square up the rear end, which this was the biggest surprise to me, that it actually squared up. Let me show you what I'm doing here to make sure it's square. What we're doing to make sure this is square is basically, whenever you put a door in a house, what do? Well, you need this length right here, which the length of the subframe is exactly the same front to rear. And we have this side and this side, they're both the same. So what does that form? One, length, width is what we have. What we need to have is the angle that bisects it, because if you have a bisecting angle, which is called a hypotenuse, If that is exactly equal both sides, it's absolutely square. And I thought there's telltale signs that I did not get a square. And I'm dreading this. I am dreading this so bad. Let me show you, but to my surprise, it worked out. I can't believe it. You know, it's better to be lucky than good, because that's kind of what that jig did. It actually put it in correct place. So let me show you what the markings were. I'm going to start at the right side front subframe bolt. What I'm going to do is I'm putting the tape measure right on the bolt right here, and let's go over to see where it adds up to. If you take a look, I'm trying to bend this up. It's almost exactly 1900 millimeters to the tip of that. Same thing, I'm putting the tape measure. And also, the flat on this side and the flat on that side both point that way. So we're trying to get an equalized measurement. Putting it right here, let's go run it over. And if you see, if I get it right in the center, it's exactly 1900 millimeters. We are now at the back of the car. It's like, how are we going to start? What's our thought process? Well, we have, like before, we have to get the differential up into the body. I thought originally that I was going to have to cut this off and reshape it. I am so glad I don't. There's a multitude of work that I have to do back here for making this box section all into here, a box section all into here, and that is beyond right now. That's going to be in just a little bit, but we have to get first things first. This right here is a differential mount. As you can see, I had to cut it because the bolts were so rusty that I couldn't get the thing out, so I had to cut it out. What I'm going to do is I need to attach this to the chassis. I'm going to probably bring it up right here, but this is already, it's welded, not perfectly, it's not tacked, but it's welded onto it, so it's not going anywhere. I mean, if you drive it, yeah, it twists right off and the differential will fall out. But I'm going to show you the first thing we have to do, and it's like another thing I'm dreading. Let me show you. The challenges of a northeastern car. This is the mount right here. I mean, there's no nut right here. I just welded this little plate just to hold the differential in. But I got to get these bolts out. And if you take a look, they are full of rust. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, but let's give it a shot while it's there. Because if I can at least loosen them up and loosen the plate up, then I'll support this with a jack and I'll pull the subframe down. Oh God, wow, I don't believe it. It came out. One more to go. I don't believe it. Let's go make something. Make a plate. Now that we have, here we have the mount, and it looks like that. What I want to do is just grab this out of the scrap pile, just steel. I want to take one bolt. This is where I want it, because I want that, and I want this portion right here, as you can see, right there. I want that equal. Then I am going to tap in all the bolts. That way, it'll sit. This part will be equal to this part. Let me go drill that, and I will do the other one. We have a winner. Well, I have to get some bolts that are small enough, and I'm going to bolt that plate in, and I'll show you what I'm going to use to make the mounts. And you're wondering how I find bolts for these things? Well, these were too long. I gotta sort through. Now that the plate's in, what are we going to use for mounts? Well, like always, the gift that keeps on giving. These are the control mounts that I use to cut the gussets out for the front suspension, for the steering arms. Pretty much, I'm just going to use this portion on both sides. What it's going to do, it's going to sit right up in there, and there's going to be metal from here to here, there to there, and that's how it's going to be. So let me go get the grinder. We're going to cut this up and make this somewhat work. Can't keep saying it enough that I'm such a hillbilly. Here's the two mounts. This is what I want to do. I want to put the mounts right here and lock them in. And they're not going to work. Best laid plans. All right. Change of plans. This is what I'm going to do initially. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have a single mount right here, sort of just like the 4000 Quattro, but it's going to be smaller. I'm going to put it right here. If I think we're going to run into problems, I will add another one right there. But I don't think so, because in the front we have so much support for the twisting motion. This is just going to be a hanger, to stop it from moving up and down. Okay, well, let me get the grinder. I am going to grind this down. I'm going to grind this down to be roughly where it's supposed to be, and cut up a couple pieces of metal, clean this off, and weld it in, and just to get it done. Because who knows? I'll probably have to change the plan again. I don't know, but you're learning it all with me. Let's go do it. Now we're after looking at the junk pile. I'm sitting there going, well, all right, well, what do I got? So I'm looking through my scraps, just yeah, what do I have? And what I had was, I had some extra pieces lying over. This was from the, remember the barn door. I cut the control arm mount down, and I'm going to use also just a piece of plate right here, which is going to weld into here, and it's going to be a dispersion plate. So it's not just welded here, it's welded all the way around and on here. And I'll have some brackets come up. I'll take these out right there and weld this right to it. And I'll box it in on the end. But I just have to get it just like that. But let me get the welder. Well, actually, let me get out my my grinding tool. Let me pull this plug and get some of this undercoating off. Really hard to tell whether or not this thing is going to be level or not. It's going to have to be mainly by eye. I mean, I put this on it. This thing says it's pretty close to being level, pretty close. And this thing said it's pretty close to being level. But this thing is all at a curve, and I don't even know if the lift is even if the car's even level in the lift. So I'm just going to shoot it, run it, see what happens. If I have to redo it, guess what? I have to redo it. No biggie. So. Alright, that bolt's loose. This is all bolted into the differential. We still have to trim this, because we have the diff locking sensor right here. I'll probably trim it right down here. Probably add another little bar right here just for stability. Probably up in here also. I'm not sure if I'm going to add wings off of here. Don't really think so. I might have a crossbar in here, but I'm not really sure just yet. What I am going to do now is we have to take these arms right here and it fits into the chassis. That way we can have the diff, you know, instead of having it like a temporary mounting up there, we can have it fully welded into the chassis. It's not going to go anywhere. Then we can concentrate on doing the suspension. And then the frame rails. And then the top of the chassis. Why did I get myself into this? Alright, well, hey, why not? What else is there to do? Can't go out to the bars. Now we're here at the front of the differential mount. What is this thing going to accomplish? First thing, it needs to hold the weight from the differential in the front and also to stop it from torquing up. That's a big thing. And, you know, because y'all, even when you have, you know, acceleration, deceleration, you have expansion and contraction to some point. Now, this is what I come up with. I have this is pretty thick rectangular channel, square channel, rectangular, whatever. It goes right in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slice this right here, and it's going to go up to there. I'm going to, you know, slice it all the way through here. So this is going to slide up so I can weld it on the ends, right there and right there. Now, to also hold it to this is just a straight sheet metal for the underneath the seat. This is just an extra plate. All it's going to be trimmed up. It's going to go right there, and then I'm going to pound it down and weld it on so it's like a double skin or a double skin coating. And for the third thing, this is going to be a brace that goes right there to cover up the bottom of this. It'll go like that, and it'll get a much added stiffness from forward to back movement. So you have the movement controlled up and down by this, and by this, and back and forth by this right here. I don't think I'm going to need any other ones. Not really sure. I can always put another brace right up here. It doesn't really matter. We're going to come to that juncture, but I need to get this thing squared away. So I am going to get right onto it, and we'll just start cleaning that up and weld it in. That's good to the point where I want to get it done right now. I want to do the other one so I can move to the suspension so we can get this stuff done. We're over to the other side. What it is I'm over the other side to the end of where that mount is. To the end of right here is 60 millimeters. And that's what I did. I just used my ruler. Put it 60 millimeters. Give it some symmetry. So it's got to come up here. And I have that other plate that's going to go in there. And one thing I wanted to show you is we have to cut that. And the undercoating they put on most of the stuff I've been taking off is that plasticized, really heavy undercoating. This stuff is not nearly as bad, and you can use a regular gasket scraper to remove it, but you have to use acetone underneath to actually get the rest of it off, because it's really difficult to do. I was over there, it's like, what is going on? So I just tried a couple things, and it's the acetone that works, not the grinding wheel. So once I scrape that off, I'll use the acetone with a brush, get it off, and then I'll grind it to get some contact for the welding, and we'll do this up. Here we have the mount and the plate, and you're probably wondering what I got these plates from. Wow. Do you remember with the Audi Rally, the A2 Rally replica, or A1, whatever you want to call it? When I drill holes in the top of the supports for doing, attaching the struts towers to the top part of the chassis in the rear, well, when I drilled those holes, these are the plates that came out. There was another plate, so I just trimmed it right here. And that way I'm just going to, like I did on the other one, put this right there. I just chopped this block off. I actually cut it, well, probably a couple, about 4 and 5 mils too short, but why not? It doesn't really matter. Let me just, I'll just tap this in, and that way I know it's going to be relatively set. That's pretty much, that's all I really wanted, is just having it set. Major thing. So let me start the welding, have my gloves on, and we'll just do this up. Well, it's now conformed to the body. When I pull the diff out and clean up the rest of that, I can weld more of it. Let's move on to doing the suspension so we can get this thing on the road, or on the ground, something like that. Have to have subframe, just like we did with the A2. It's up here. I have to mark where I'm going to grind off, so I don't grind everything. But pretty much just right around here, grind that all off. Grind that. I got to cut a hole in the top to have the bolt come down, because I'm going to probably cut down here also and have a like a pipe or something like that holding right there, because I might have a rear strut tie bar go across there. Seeing how I was going to use that same as a tie bar for the skid plate for the A2 or Audi rally car, I might just use just a straight bar here. I just have to worry about the exhaust and all that stuff. Now what I have to do is measure out, because I measured before. It was pretty much 2 inches. Pull out, that's where it is. I still have to cut down the CV joint, get the ABS ring off, or the cuts for the ABS ring. I'm going to put it in the lathe. I'm going to cut that down because it's still impacting the 4000 rear strut assembly or hub assembly. So let me mark that, and I'm going to take a marker. I'm going to go around here. This is where I'm going to grind off so I can weld, and then we'll get on to doing these things so we can put it up inside. Now one final thing, I put a mark right here for where the center of the hole is, and then I'm going to go like this and bring it out to right where it's 2 inches, where I can see it lined up right there. I got to make sure that one over there is exactly 2 inches center to center, and we shall weld this up. Close. Need to take about another 1/4 inch off. Well, that looks slide in, but gotta basically run this. See how this is curved? When I take it and I put it on the anvil, I'm going to basically flatten it right out. It'll cover the holes here. That way we can weld it all in. Then I can go here. I got to use a grinder, grind all this stuff off, and that way we have room for the exhaust. That's kind of the reason why I'm doing it this way. And this should be fairly strong. We'll do the same over onto the other side. And let me go flatten this out so it'll cover this hole so I can weld it over here, and I'll do that. Okay, this is just welded right here. Bolts are in line with the mounts. Now what we have to do is cut this off, and we have to stabilize this so when we cut the center section out so we can easily get at the bolts and pull the CV shaft a lot simpler. This is just a some box section from a Merkur that I used off of the bumper, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld it right here and weld it right here, and the only thing we have to make sure is we have to not interfere with the outlets coming out of the fuel tank. This is what these little clips are for, is for the fuel line coming out, and right here is where the fuel pump is. But let's first get this, and I'll get the carbide wheel and start grabbing the undercoating. Last night when I turned the camera off, we had this thing right here, this support welded onto the bottom here, welded on the top here. And what I did was I was moving things around, and I saw just a little bit of flex, so I took a tri-bar, and there was flex in here. What was happening? It was up here, and it was flexing on this sheet metal like that. The other one on the other side is welded to this structural member. This thing didn't have enough room. I couldn't move it over. I cut it out. This is part of the bottom part of a seat frame, that Chevy seat frame that we used. What I did was I brought it over, and I basically welded it right into here. The other booger welds or whatever, because I didn't get it to clean. I was late and I was just too tired doing it. But today, now that this is all squared away, that thing is all set up over on that side. Now we have to work on over here. What we have to do now is we have to tie in this chassis into this chassis. You know, the bottom quarter into the front half of the 5+5. I have to bring the lift down, put it up on blocks here so I can get at all this. I have to start grinding all of this undercoating off and start figuring out what plate I need to make, because I got to brace this thing all the way down into here. I want as much bracing to this part of the chassis as I can, and then I'm probably going to gusset it on the inside to this chassis just to give it stiffness. I'd much rather overbuild it, you know. Let's say it adds 20 pounds both sides. Well, guess what? I just won't drink a bunch of beer and eat a bunch of wings and lower the 20 pounds so we have the same weight. So let's get on to doing that. Let's drop this thing down and so we can start grinding all this stuff off. We're at the point having to connect this frame rail to the 5x5 chassis, or 5+5 chassis. As you can see, this is all rusty. When I pull back the undercoating from here all the way up, you know, you couldn't tell until you pull the undercoating back. So I got to cut that out also. But what I'll do is I'll cut this out and slot it and weld into the side, then weld the stuff onto here. Because I'm just gonna, seeing how I can't replicate the exact frame rail, I'm gonna spread it out and give myself just more, how can I put it, more contact area throughout the entire thing. And I'll probably go inside here, and seeing how the seats are just for show anyway, I'll gusset it right to the chassis rail on the inside. So let's first cut this, or start grinding some of this stuff off and start trimming it up, and let's see what we got to work with. We got it somewhat clean. You know, it's still pretty crappy. I got to go pound this up, go inside and pound that down. And you know, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I need to try and take out of here before I weld it. But what I'm looking at is right here is when I cut. This is all open normally. This is closed when you're in the 4000 Quattro. So what I want to do is I'm going to probably build a triangle gusset from here to here and from here to here. So let me go find some metal. I'm going to build that. Then we're going to start boxing around, and this thing will probably come down to here. Not really sure yet, but let's figure it out as we go. Here's the thickness we have to look for when replacing the metal. So 2 millimeters thick. So if we can find metal that's 2 millimeters thick, we should be good to go. You're probably wondering, what the hell is this? This is more German parts. Went around, looked at it, looked at the places like the thinnest section here, and it's a little over 2 millimeters. So it's probably 2.5, it's closer to 3 millimeters, so it's actually thicker than what's in there. This is a frame to a eurovan. Third seat or second seat. It's completely gutted. What I got to do is, I'm just going to cut this off first, and if you're seeing this, it worked. If you don't, guess what? It didn't work. But let me we'll just cut this up and we'll put it in and see what happens. Now, this is what I'm thinking of. I've been thinking about doing this ever since, but I wasn't sure until I cut up the frame. And what it is, I'm going to have a little bit, I'm going to cut this rust off of this frame. I'm going to have this thing right here. I marked it. Basically, I have to cut it, put it right here, and start trimming it down. And then we're going to build everything onto this. Whew. Well, if it's not, if this isn't hillbilly recycling with German metal, I don't know what is. So let's see what we can do. Well, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I actually kind of like it. I mean, it fits right up in here. Let's see, I'm going to move this over. Fits right up in here. Here's the rusted part. This up is here. We're going to cut it out right there and take out all the rust and weld this into that. So it'll be actually stronger than the original, because the original was rusty. Whether or not stronger than the original new, maybe not. But what we can do is when we start boxing all of this in, we can feed it off of this. That way, everything is dispersed right here. It's going to be welded there, got to clean up all this. I'm going to punch this up inside here, clean that all off, weld all this. I think that solution might work. And boy, do I have a lot of work in front of me. So I might as well get this, get this squared away. Let me. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to be tying in. This is, as you can see, this is all damage from when the tree fell on that car. Well, or from something, but it's all damaged. So I'm going to try and go up as far as I can with this into here. And we'll use more of this good metal right there. And it should fit fairly well. Let me go trim more of that so we can get it closer to where it's supposed to be. So we can do this up. Now we're at the side. We have to start, what I'm going to do is I'm starting to create the internal structure of basically holding the rear end on. That's the whole crux. What I do is I made a template. What I'm going to do is this is going to be the major plate right here. It's going to go right here and it's going to weld, it's going to be like a patch panel that goes all the way to here. This will also fit the other side with a little bit of trimming of when I cut it. Because I made this to this size because this is the shorter piece right here. I also have to make right here, I'm going to put it up and weld it to the inner chassis right there. Doesn't really need it, but I'm going to do it anyway. And this, I'm just going to box in, pretty much. After I weld this, I'm going to box this in, and then we're going to start building the panels for the sides, after everything is done. Probably not going to go all, I mean, we're going to use the thing that I cut up, but we're not going to box it all in, even though I want to, but I think I'm just going to leave a little bit open down here. I don't really know yet until I get there, but this is a huge thing, because after I get this panel, I drew it out on the metal over there. I'm going to use a really thick metal, cut it all up, then we can grind it in and weld it here, here, and here. So this is all basically fused together. This is right here be fused together for stiffness. I got to grind this, cut that, but it's kind of never ending. So let me go over there. I'm going to cut those, and then I'll cut a small piece right here, weld that in, to fully weld that in, and then we'll weld in this piece. So we'll just get her done. We have this now welded. This is welded, so is this, so is this. Right here, as you can see, is just crap because it's just bits and pieces welded together. This all has to be cut out, but I'm going to do it from up top. I'm not going to do it from down bottom, because it's going to have to look like something inside the car, and which it's not a big deal, but it's easier just for me to do it inside, because that way I can conform it to there instead of doing here. What I got to do now is put in a plate to start tying this section together like this. So we're going to start with this. This is your starting point, and I start welding that, and I'm going to put a bridge, a plate from here to the bottom part of where this is going to go. So let's get on to that. We have the plate pretty much welded in. What we got to do now is we have to bring the bottom of that seat rail, put it here, because we got to make a plate from here down to attach to that. And we also have to make a plate from here down to attach to that. Now that's pretty cool. Let's start making all the plates. Well, there we go. We have this. We have it here. I might put some plates around here, not sure yet, but my first plan that I just said, I wanted to show you this because plans change all the time. And what it is that I'm not going to be able to weld. If I come down here, there's no way I can get a MIG gun in there to weld that. So what I am going to do is I'm going to weld a plate here and a small plate here, because I was going to do something, I was going to have it come down also, but I was going to have that welded there. Then, after this is inside here, I'm going to put a plate that goes from this arm to this box, all the way down to here. And that'll pretty much lock it all in. And then we are done with this side and go over there to do the other one. See this thing right here? I found this on a parts car that I just bought. And I bought it to do the 22B, WRC, Subaru, blah, blah. Actually, I had to take it all apart, and it works really good now. Let's see, I just can't make it to stop moving. There we go. Just transfer it. Well, there we go. Not bad. We got the box. Let me grind up the paint and clean up the backside, grind some more of this, and we will weld this sucker right on. Now that box is welded in, we got to make this plate right here, and then we can attach that top part, or figure out how to attach the top part, then make the other plates to fit in. Then do the other side. Always keep your scraps in a small little box, because you never know, so you don't have to cut another sheet or cut into anything else. More scrap metal for the scrap pile. Cut up another piece, put the plate right there. I just did a little trimming off camera. Just set the sticker right there, and we will pop this in. And I also built another piece up here. What we have, this is all boxed in. I put another plate here to complete the box section. Boxed here, just like I said I was going to do. What I have to do now is put the A-frame in and start plating it to the sides. It's now time to put in our triangulation piece for the frame rail. I had a fancy idea of actually putting it right here and welding it to the chassis and all that stuff. Well, that didn't work out. Right here, I don't know if you can see it, but we have perforations or rust holes right there when I started grinding everything down. What did I come up with? I had some pieces of angle. They came from a shelf, basically an industrial shelf that I put up. I just had spares, and it's great steel. So I am going to put these dispersion plates right there. And the good thing is, I can easily get the MIG gun on the top and on the bottom and on the side through here and weld it all. When I pushed it all in with the hammer, I have to I'll weld the bottoms and I'll weld the tops. And then I'll take the ball peen hammer and hit it back out. But first thing, I'm going to put this in, set it up to exactly where I want it, where all the plates will fit nice. Give me a real good bead either side so it doesn't move. take it out, weld everything all the way around it. So there's no chance of it ever coming apart. And then marking where I want to do it and welding it back in. And then this thing will be welded in with dispersion plates to the actual chassis. Whew! Lots of thinking. I guess it's going to go there. I just have to do one more gusset over there, then we're going to start welding this guy up. Oh boy. See how this is all covered? I can weld now up in here. I'll weld up all this, and then I will put the plate on. At least that's what my plan is. We have this welded on here. I just put this back in. We have to extend this part of the frame rail right down here. Now, what I have is I just took another piece which I bent up to give a little bit of structure. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on here and weld it to this piece right here, because this will transfer the load down to here. Weld it onto this, put it on the ground, weld it, and then put this all back in there and weld this sucker in. It's like, oh man, look at all this. All right, well, that's it. You weld it. It's all this is all welded in. It's tacked up here, so when I drop the thing, I can take the hammer, pound it all out, and get to these sides. So it'll be a nice fit. I haven't. No, I just welded this side. I have a gusset right here that I'm going to put in right there, but I have to trim it up a little bit more, and I will get to it in just a bit. But I don't want to do it just yet because I'm not sure that's going to be the final iteration. I have a feeling it is, but I don't know. Let's get over to the other side here now. As you can see, this is a lot more haphazardly put together when I did it. Yeah, it is what it is. I'm going to have to redo this section probably right here and right here. Don't really know, but what I am going to do is I'm going to weld this up right inside here, then have this plate. Is this it? Yeah, I made it a little bit longer. This way I don't have the extension plate, it's going to weld right onto here, then start making the plates all going to be the same as the other side. So let me just zip on to doing this and we will get it done. Well, we got the plate welded in except for up inside here when we cut this. What we have over here is a lot of damage is what we have. Not so much rust, but damage. Cars probably put off the road or something like that, who knows. This is, after I scraped off some of the undercoating, but when we put the extended frame rail, we're going to go into here anyway and get rid of all this and just cut there and cut there. Let's mark it up so we can get this thing done. We have it pretty much on where the other one is. And see the width right here? Where I mark it right there. And where the damage is goes all the way up to here. So that's basically my first initial cut. So we can scribe everything in. The seat base, extended frame rail. Pretty much you're going to mark it right here, go up, let's mark it right here, go up at an angle like this, because this angle comes back a lot farther, We'll cut this, bring it closer to this section and scribe that, and be, hopefully, we'll get it relatively close. Hot damn. Well, let's weld this sucker in. Now we have to make this a box. 9/8, and I cut this up right here. It's going to go right to there. It's going to go farther up, bolt to the sides, and I'm going to weld that in. I'm going to weld this piece in. And we got one more box section down, slowly but surely. Pretty close. Well, we have it pretty much set in. This, when we put the plates like we had on the other side on here, I'm going to tailor it to this. I just wanted this pretty much set so I can start building up this plate right here that we did on the other one. Exact same thing. I'm going to do it the exact same way. And the plate that comes from here down to here. That's it. I'm going to just build those things. We can get this thing tacked in, and I'll also get those plates done. And I'm going to use some of this plate to bring it all the way over to here, so I'll make it a little bit longer than it was over on the other side. Well, might as well use it. So let's leap into action. Talk about having just enough. This was one of the sections that I cut off for the other side. Just reversed it. Waste not, want not. I'm going to go right here. Let me clean this up. I'm going to weld it right in. I'm going to make the other plate. Actually, I'll make the other plate right now. And get this all done. To do this side, well, we got some more of the toolbox stuff that we use. This was the edge corner for the toolbox drawers that we use for the Audi rally car. It's the right size. It goes right there. I got a lip, which is which I call a strengthening lip, but you know, it is what it is. Put it right here, just to start trimming it down, and it'll probably go all the way to here and back like that. Here we go. That's pretty much how it's going to go, just like that. Bend this. I'm going to grind all this stuff off. I got to build the mounts here. Then we can weld it all in and end this episode. I'm sure you're getting tired of it. I know I am. Now, before we start welding all this stuff up, one thing I want to do is, this is the remnants of the damage that was on this frame rail. So what I got to do is pull it down, and what I'm going to use is my slide hammer. Big honking slide hammer. This is what you want to use. See, if you bring it out a little bit more than what it is, when you have it all welded in, you can tap it down and bring it more flush. There we go. We take the hammer and pound this down. After we get this plate welded in, pound this down, then we'll get this all plate welded in. It's starting to come together. It's in. Wow. I can't believe all this. Ah. I left this all unwelded because I have to get inside and bang it out and have this all flush. And then I'm gonna probably cut some of this stuff off and boot it all, or box it all in right here, which is gonna be kind of different than the other side because this side's a little bit, actually different on that side. All right, we're at the end of this part of the episode. Whew! This was a rough one, but I think we have the lower section of the 4000 Quattro pan stabilized. The lower section of it. We got to go from the strut towers up. I have to basically chase all the threads, put some wheels on it, roll it back into the barn. And because we have to set up the rear trunk or boot lid, whatever you want to call it, that area. I have to fit the fuel tank. And before I do anything more work with boxing in sections over here, I have to have the fuel pump in this general area. How am I going to do it? Don't really know yet. I haven't cut this mount out here because I might section it into something where it holds the fuel pump, but I got to start fitting the top part, stabilizing the upper section and putting the fuel pump in and getting that all ready. That way we can do the rear pan and start fitting the bottoms of the fenders. This is, it's a process. That's just pretty much what it is. But remember, nothing special. I'm just a recycling hillbilly. We still have used virtually no money into this car. It's just a lot of work. Just a lot of work. So thank you very much for showing up. Remember, you can do it. Just be as certifiable as me. All right, thank you. Have a good day. What a mess. Jesus. Looks like a freaking disaster area.